Welcome back from your break. Let's now move on to percentage. So, the notes about percentage, a definition is percentage is a proportion of a whole. It's a portion of a whole, where the whole is 100. So every percentage is then a fraction out of a whole, out of 100. For this reason, we can write percentage as a fraction with a denominator of 100. So 40% is actually 40 out of 100. We can also write it as a decimal, 0.40. Percentage has been adopted quite comfortably into everyday language because people find it easier to visualize and comprehend when they've got a percentage rather than when they've got an amount. So let's look at an example. It's better to show how popular candidate Z is if I said to you that Karen got 70% of the votes. Much easier for you to understand compared to Karen got 4,389 of the 6,270 votes. The numbers, we get lost. We don't know what they mean, or we lose focus. But if I say 70% makes sense, you know she's very popular. Okay, it also makes it easier for us to compare values. So if I said to you that 37.5% of the population got ill this year, in comparison with 44% last year, you know that that number went down, rather than saying, well, 3/8 of the population got ill this year compared to 4/9 last year. Those numbers, again, we don't understand what they mean just off the cuff. Let's see what next part of our notes tell us. When dealing with percentages, there's basically 5 different types of questions that you're going to be asked. And if you can learn how to deal with each one of these 5, then you've actually got percentage covered. So the first one is if you're given an amount, we need to find out how much that is in percentage. So an amount out of a total. So we use this every day when we say to our teachers, I got this for my test, but what is that in percentage? We take the marks that we got divided by the total marks of the test. So let's look at Tandi. Tandi got 20 out of 25 for her test. So as a percentage, we're going to say 20 out of 25, and we always multiply by 100 because we want to make it out of a percentage, so it's out of 100. If we do that on the calculator, you'll see that it is 80%. So if we work out the percentage of 2 out of 5, so again, we're going to say 2 out of 5 times by 100. So let's quickly do that on our calculator. We're going to say 2 out of 5 and times by 100, and we see that we get 40%. Let's check that our notes say 40%, and they do. That's the first way of calculating, and remember, percentage always multiply. Second example is if you're given a percentage and we need to find out the total. So for example, an article costs 15 Rand and VAT is 5%. Okay, so if we need to work out what our new amount is, if we increase it by 5%, we're going to work out what that 5% is of 15. So we're going to say 15 times by 5%. We're going to get 0.75. Then if I want to increase it by that 5%, I'm going to add the 2. So I end up with 15 Rand 75. I can actually do this in one step. What I did here was I increased, I times it by 5%, and I added the original amount, which was basically your 100%. So I can do that in one step and say, well, it's 15 Rand times by 105% because I added them there, and I end up with 15.75. It's one step and it makes it easier on the calculator. So I say 15 times by 105, and my percentage button is 15 Rand 75. So it does it in one step. Okay, let's look at the second example. If I exchange 12,000, I need a color for that, 1,250 Rand foreign exchange, and they pay a 12% commission fee. How much in total do I pay the cashier? Well, I need to pay her the amount that I exchanged, that's the 1,250, plus an additional 12%. So I can do it 2 ways. I can work out the 12% of my 12.50, which is by timesing it, 12.50, and I see that it's 150 Rand in commission. Then I add it, or I can do it in one step and say, well, okay, I'm actually paying 112%, and we do that in one step because it's my 100 plus my 12%, and I end up paying 1,440 Rand in 1,400 Rand in total. If a butcher increased all his prices by 8%, if mince was 21 Rand 99 per kilo, what would you now pay for 1 kilogram? We need to increase it by 8%, so I can work out 8% of the amount, which is 1 Rand 76, add it, and I get 23 Rand 75. Or I can do it in one step, and I can say, well, okay, my 12.99 times by 108%, and I get the same answer, but I have actually done it in one step. What's nice about learning to do it in one step is when we do later on work out backwards and we want to get the original price, we need to be able to use this second part that I've just explained. Okay, let's see the next way of calculating. Right, if given a new amount, find the original. That's what I was talking about now. So if the price of an article after 5% of VAT is added is 15 Rand 75, what was the cost excluding VAT? So I now have, I want to write this out for you what we actually have. Let me just show you on a blank piece of paper. I have my original price and I added 5% to it, and that gave me 15 Rand 75. Was it 15 Rand 75? Let's just double check. 15 Rand 75. So if I want to know what the original price is, I need to get this original on its own. So I'm going to divide here by 105%. And I'm going to divide on the other side by 105%. That's not a 5. 105%. And that will give me my original amount. This is a situation where you can't just work out 5% of 1575 and minus it. We need to actually work out what the original was. On your calculators, we will take our 15,75 and divide it by 105%, and we see that we get 15 Rand. So let's go back up to our notes and see that it's already been calculated for us. We divide, and that's the reason we divide. That's the reason we divide, and it was 15 Rand. So let's see if we can work it out with our exchange money. We paid 1,400 Rand, but we had to pay 12% commission. So how much money did we actually exchange? We're now taking off the 12%. So we're going to divide it by 112% to get our 1250. After a drastic increase of 8%, I now pay 23.75 for 1 kilogram of mince. How much did I originally pay? Again, we're going to divide it. So it's the same calculations we've just done before, but now we're dividing to get the originals. The next way of actually dealing with percentages is if you're given two amounts, we're looking for the percentage increase or decrease. Basically, the percentage change. That's what we're looking for now. And there's a wonderful formula for this. Now, they don't usually give you the formula in the exam, so it's a formula that you need to learn. It is our new amount minus our initial amount. Or what we can call this is it is the amount of change that occurred. And we're always going to divide it by our initial amount. Then, because it's a percentage, we're going to times by 100. So let's do a quick example of that. So we don't have one here, so let's change color. So say, for example, in 2010, I paid 7 Rand 80 for a loaf of bread. And in 2012, I now pay 9 Rand 60 for that same loaf of bread. How do I do the calculation? I look at my change, which is my new value, minus my old value, divided by my old value or my initial value, and it's a percentage, so I times by 100. On our calculators, if you're using a scientific calculator, you can use your fraction button. So it's 9,60 minus 7,80 divided by my initial amount, and go over there and times by 100. If you don't have a scientific calculator and you've got just a 4-function calculator, then you've got to use your memory plus and memory minus, or do it in a few steps. So calculate your change, your new minus your old, work that out, get an answer, press equals, then divide it by your initial amount, press equals, and then multiply. So with those 4-function calculators, remember BODMAS and remember to press equals along the way, or use your memories. And our answer to that is 23,08% increase. So that was 23,08% increase. Now there's one other thing that I need to point out right now is you can do this for an increase or a decrease. When you do a decrease, you're going to end up with a negative answer. We cannot have a negative percentage. That negative in the answer is actually showing you that is a decrease. It has gone down. So just keep that in mind. Right, let's go back up to our 5th way of doing calculations, is if we're given a percentage to convert it to a common fraction. Well, we can convert 25% to a common fraction. All we need to do when we do this is say 25 divided by 100, and we will get a fraction. And on our calculators, we'll say 25 divided by 100, and we get a common fraction of 1/4. So we can write it as a decimal, we can write it as a common fraction. So you will see, just follow the instructions, whatever they ask you to do. Let's do some examples when it comes to percentage. Right. We need to work out 36 out of 40 as a percentage. So as soon as I see the word, I've lost that question. As soon as I see the word percentage, I know I need to multiply by 100. What is my original amount divided by my total amount? That's my fraction. And I get an answer. We can do this on the calculator. 36 divided by 40. And I'm going to times by 100. And I get an answer of 90%. So my answer here is 90%. Don't forget to add your percentage sign, the unit, because it is very important. And it's not just 90, it is 90%. If I want to calculate 30% of 42 Rand 90, let's take a different color. So I've got 42 Rand 90, and I'm going to of is times by 30%. And this we can do on our calculator, both the scientific and the 4-function calculator actually work in the same way in this respect. So we take our 42 Rand 90 times by 30%, and I get an answer of 12 Rand 87. So that is 12 Rand 87. These are nice easy marks, and sometimes we'll see these kind of questions within other questions, and they're the marks that we know we can easily get. Just a lot of practice that we need to do. Now we're going to decrease by 4%. I'm going to do this 2 ways. First, I'm going to say, well, I've got 340. I'm going to work out the 4% and get an answer. So let's work out 340 times by 4%. And I get an answer of 13.6. So 13 Rand 60, in fact, because we're dealing with money. So that is 13 Rand 60. And I'm decreasing it, so I need to take my 340 and I need to minus my 13 Rand 60. And I get an answer. Let's just minus that. 340. And I can minus the answer, because I had that answer in there, was 326 Rand 40. 326 Rand 40. I can also actually do this in one step. I can say, so this is my OR. Let's try a different color. I'll show you OR. I can take my 340 Rand and I'm going to times by 100% minus 4%, because I'm decreasing it. And I'm going to get an answer. So let's write that out. It's 340 times by 96%. And I'm actually going to then get our answer. Let's see if it's the same answer. 340 it should be, times by 96%. and I get 326 Rand 40. So 326 Rand 40. So just now, when I was increasing, I said 100 and something percent. Now when I'm decreasing, I'm saying 100 minus that percentage. So keep that in mind. Right. Next part is if a question says to me, express 28 expressed as a percentage of 84. So my thing is, as soon as I see percentage, I've got to times by 100. My fraction is 28 of 84. That's the sum. So once we've got to pick out the numbers that we need from the question. And it's important for you to look for things of the words like of and your total. And I'm going to go with most of the time you're going to be dealing with a fraction that is the small number divided by the big number. Most of the time. So have a look to see that we've got them the right way around. Okay? That calculation is 28 divided by 84 times 100, and we see that it is 33,33%. 33,33%. I've rounded to 2 decimal places because most of your time it tells you to round to 2 decimal places. So unless they don't tell you otherwise, just go with 2 decimal places. It'll make sense. Let's see what our next question is. A loaf of bread costs 9 Rand 22. There's my bread. Last year, the same loaf cost 7 Rand 58. What is the percentage increase? So I'm looking at the percentage change. So I need my new minus my old divided by my old, and it's a percentage, so I'm going to times by 100. So I'm going to fill in the numbers. I've got 9 Rand 22 is my new amount. Last year it cost 7 Rand 58. Divide by my original amount and times by 100. Let's see on the calculator what that tells us. You use let's try without the fraction button, just in case you're using a calculator that is not scientific. Minus 7 Rand 58. I'm going to press equals. I'm going to then divide that by 7 Rand 58 equals, and times by 100 equals, and I'll get my answer of 21,64%. So that was 21,64% increase. It was a positive. An article costing 31 Rand 92 includes VAT, and VAT we normally deal with VAT of 14%. So this 31.92 is including the VAT. What was the original price of the article before VAT was added? So this is where I said to you we've got an original amount. We increased it by VAT, which makes it 114%, and my answer to that was 31 Rand 92. Left out my decimal. So if I want my original, I'm going to take, well, my 31 Rand 92 and divide it by 114%. And let's see what that is on the calculator. 31 Rand 92 divided by 114%. Originally cost me 28 Rand. What's important about a question like this? 28 Rand. What's important about a question like this is you can double check this. You can check whether you have actually got the answer correct. So let me check. Let's do a check in orange. We're going to check this answer. We're going to take this 28 Rand and I'm going to increase it by 14%. So let's work out what 14% of 28 is. 28 times 14%. And I see that it is 3 Rand 92. So go back to that. It is 3 Rand 92. Now to increase it, I had my 28 plus 3 Rand 92. And that actually gives me my 31 Rand 92. So I know my answer is correct because I'm able to check it. And every now and again you're going to get a question where you're able to check and it makes sense to you and you feel great because at least you know that it's right. So look out for those that you can actually go back and check. That takes us to the end of our session. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned something. And remember, guys, the only way to get better at this is practice, practice, practice. So from me, enjoy it and goodbye.